If there is any one thing that I can say I genuinely regret about being a Christian, it's that I wish I had done it sooner. Um, and I think I bring this up and I make this kind of video in part because of just specific things that I'm contemplating and grappling with, but also in tangent with the fact that I'm beginning to realize, in many ways, for the first time, the kind of sorrow that comes with what it means to bear your cross. And traditionally, when a Christian hears, bear your cross, deny yourself, and follow Him, the first thing that comes to mind is bearing your cross is, in some respects, carry the heavy burden of denying yourself, live in virtue, and, take on the responsibilities of life such that you are inclined to, live in alignment with the source of truth, goodness, and beauty. And there's a very big profundity in that. However, in growing as a Christian, I also see that there is a bit of a mourning that takes place when it comes to what it means to walk the Christian life, to walk the path, the narrow path. And much of that has to do with the wisdom that comes with age. One of the things that, in my own personal life, I get complimented a lot on is just having a inclination to be intelligent, and I mean come off as intelligent, and I mean that in the sense that I really do enjoy reading. I really do enjoy researching and applying, knowledge and information such that I'm able to engage with people at a different level beyond just the superficial. I really enjoy that, and however, my goal isn't necessarily the pursuit of intelligence, but rather the pursuit of wisdom. And my reason being is that, well, the best analogy I can think of is, intelligent people built the Tower of Babel, but wise men built Noah's Ark. And I don't want to be the intelligent person that builds a Tower of Babel. I want to be somebody wise who contributes to what is essentially going to be Noah's Ark. And what do I mean by that? Well, this goes back to the point I was making earlier, which was the one thing I regret about being a Christian, which is that I wish I had done it sooner. And I bring that specific point up because had I known now, or had I known then what I know now, I can't help but ponder on how much differently I would have interacted with people, how much differently I would have engaged with people, and done what I could to incline people's wills to the will of our source of truth, goodness, and beauty, which in the Christian life is God. And I look back and I'm like, wow, there was so much wasted potential, so much wasted opportunity that could have easily turned into what was, or is, and can be some of the most profound moments, of, the interactions that I had with certain people. Where in high school and, in the era after that, before I became Christian and was very much engaged with New Age, a lot of what I proclaimed had a lot to do with how to serve one's own life, how to advance one person's life such that they have a sense of flourishing, that they have a sense of control over their life. That, not that that's a bad thing, but I think the point I'm badly trying to make is I essentially operated under the paradigm that oneself is the highest priority, and I would do what I can to in the spiritual understanding of life that I had then, was incline people to think that same way, which is to put themselves on that pedestal of being of the highest importance. And being a Christian now, I sort of see that that is the height of pride. And that's kind of what I'm mourning. And I mourn that in multiple ways, but one that I'm kind of coming to realize is when converting to Christianity, there's a specific doctrine that is accepted universally among all Christians, Protestant and Catholic and Eastern Orthodox alike, and that doctrine is the second coming. And when you realize what that means, which is essentially the end of history, the end of, this life, the end of this world, such that the new heaven and the new earth comes, and that's where we will live eternally. And to play a part in that cosmic story, really is the highest, and I mean objectively the highest form of purpose. When I was engaged with self-help and when I was engaged with New Ageism, a lot of what purpose centered around was, how can I make an impact on the world? How can I, the individual, advance in such a way that my legacy lasts beyond my time, such that as many people as I can help remember me for as long as possible. Christianity says God is coming, and our job as a church is to prepare the world for that. And in many ways, I think, and this is me speaking very generically and abstractly, I think in many ways we've forgotten that mission. We've forgotten that we're supposed to spend our time building an ark and not a Tower of Babel, which is what I think we've done in the West. And that's obviously a very big statement. There's a lot there, but my point being that there's a lot of people that I know that I no longer talk to, not because of anything bad, but more so because life just goes on. And knowing what I know now, I look back and I'm like, oh crap. I had so many opportunities to speak to them in such a way that they can align their wills perhaps just a little bit better. Not because of anything I do, but just planting a seed of evangelism and perhaps apologetics of just, hey, there's something happening behind the scenes of our lives, which is right, the working of God, not just in our own individual lives, but throughout the fabric of human history. And a lot of my conversations probably would have centered around, hey, you might not believe this thing, but it's happening, and perhaps instead of looking at your life and your life's purpose such that it is centered around what you want, what if you looked at your life in such a way that you played a small and tiny role in preparing humanity for that second coming, the second coming of Christ? I think one of the dispositions that many, cult leaders have when it comes to understanding Christianity, like let's take Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, the Branch Davidians of the Seventh-day Adventists that broke away from that denomination, when they read about, the apocalypse, the revelation of John, the end of the world, right, their instinct is, right, to cower away and hide, but that's not necessarily the disposition we're supposed to have. I'm wondering if our disposition, when it comes to speaking on purpose and meaning and life itself, is, how do we incline our wills such that it better prepares the people around us for this climax of human history, which is the coming of Christ. I think we, as a culture, as a society, and as a world, have done a really, really bad job at keeping that at the forefront of our minds. We're not just living here to die. We're living here universally with the intent of building an ark that prepares the world for that second coming. And I have spent so much of my life just completely ignoring that, just being completely oblivious to that. Like, even fellow Christians don't, when I talk about these things, kind of think of it as like, oh yeah, I am ready for the end of the world. But it's like, no, stop for a second and think. Everything is coming to an end. And I don't mean that in a despairing way. I mean that in, like, we actually have the one universal purpose all of mankind can rally behind at our fingertips, and we just completely ignore it. It is the one universal calling to purpose that transcends race, creed, class. It transcends every single sociological and economic dividing line, and we just completely throw it away because we think we can define purpose on our own. We can't. And if human history and human sociology and human psychology hasn't shown that we are incapable of defining purpose on our own terms, then I'm sorry, but you are not a very wise individual. You're not a very intelligent individual. Because you've got to understand that when people want to unify and rally behind a purpose, a universal purpose, they don't just want, the human emotion that comes with rallying behind purpose. They want a deep spiritual connection that binds them, to something greater than themselves, that's transcendent, that engages with the divine. And that's what, all of human history is pointing to. It's the climax of man and God entering into a new beginning, which is the second coming, the new heaven, the new earth spoken of in Revelation. And knowing that now, I realize just how much I've screwed up. And how much we're all screwing up. But perhaps this is, in one small way, a reawakening of our goal as a human race, which is build an ark instead of a tower. I guess the final thing is, the reason I'm making this video is because wherever you're at on your walk as a non-believer or a believer, we all have to encounter the divine at some capacity throughout the course of our lives. And you're better spent using that time to bring people to, at the very least, believe that there is an eternal state upon which all of human history is headed. And obviously the Christian claim is that that moment culminates in the second coming, but you as the individual, as smart and as intelligent as you might be, would be all the more wiser for engaging with people with the intent of getting them on the arc that will save them from what is going to be either an eternity in hell or eternity in heaven. And there's a lot to unpack there, but yeah, that's probably the one thing I regret about being a Christian, which is that I didn't do it sooner and that I didn't know then what I know now. Not that I can't help it, but at the very least I can spend my time engaging with people in this manner because it matters more than anything in the world. You know, I think one of the things that got me to realize that, you know, I don't necessarily have anything else to think about, but this is precisely when I make these videos and when I, you know, do some form of apologetics work, I'm realizing I don't particularly want to do that. What I want to do is, you know, live a normal life, you know, pursue marriage, have kids, and just, you know, spend my Saturday evenings and Sundays just, you know, hanging out with people, whatever. But I realize it's just impossible because there's something so much greater than all of life's joys that is coming, that is magnificent, that is divine, that's utterly and profoundly beautiful. And like, it's not a crisis in meaning in terms of despair. It's a crisis in meaning in terms of, you know, the majesty of the divine that we're engaged with. And I think the world would be better off if people had that kind of grandiose perspective. You know, I know I'm not the only one, and really I know there's people that can articulate the point I'm trying to reach at a little bit better than I can, but at the very least, you know, the right people just need to think this way such that the world can be better prepared for the climax of history. And so that's all I have to say. That's my biggest regret as a Christian, which is that I didn't know then what I know now. Till my next video, God bless. And get out there and make better happen daily.